Hello, and welcome to the Key Stage 4 chemistry topic on life cycle assessment. Before we get started, can you please make sure you have a pen, paper, pencil, ruler, and a highlighter or another coloured pen or pencil for self-assessment. Can you also pause this recording just for 10 seconds, get down the learning objective to know how to carry out a life cycle assessment on a product. Okay, so the retrieval practice will come up now. Can you answer these 4 questions on retrieval practice and give yourself 5 minutes for that? So 5 minutes on the retrieval practice, go. So your 5 minutes up there now, guys. Can you finish the question you're on there? And can you pick up another good pen or pencil, preferably green, and we'll self-assess this now. So question 1, why do we filter water? To put simply, to reduce the concentration of contaminants such as suspended particles, that's a piece of dirt and materials, parasites, bacteria, algae, viruses and fungi, and they are all pathogens which can cause diseases. So give yourself a mark if you got something remotely similar to that. Question 2, what else is done to water to make it potable? That means drinkable, and it can be used and clean. Boiling water, so you can heat it up. High temperature is the surest method, surest way to kill off these pathogens just mentioned. And you could also add chlorine to it, like in swimming pools, and then types of radiation, often X-rays radiation. That's done in the final process of water filtration and cleaning. Question 3, what is the effect of releasing SO2, so sulfur dioxide? Well, acid rain is what it causes generally, so it occurs near nuclear power plants. And what acid rain is, why that's bad for the environment, is because it damages buildings and monuments made of limestone, so it can erode away at them. Damages trees, it breaks away the waxy cuticle and leaves, so it's difficult for trees to absorb minerals and nutrients, and then can lead to their stunted growth and possibly death. And then the final effect is it makes lakes and rivers too acidic, so a lot of plant life and aquatic life can actually perish. Okay, so give yourself a mark if you've got any of them. And then 4th question, name 3 places where CO2 is stored. So there's carbon stores as organic matter and living and dead organisms, so any organisms. In the atmosphere as a gas, so it's carbon dioxide, of course, that we breathe out. And plants use for photosynthesis, and as organic matter in soils, so found in soils, and then in fossil fuels under the Earth's crust, often stored as crude oil or natural gas. So give yourself a mark out of 4 overall for that. Excellent if you got 4. 3, well done. 2 and below, let's just add in the corrections there. Okay, so what we're doing, learning outcomes for this learning enhancement session is to describe the 4 stages of a life cycle assessment. There's 4 key stages, and then compare the life cycle assessments of a plastic bag and a paper bag. So this is a big environmental issue at the moment, and we're going to compare that in a 6-mark question. So going to be 2 images just on the screen here. What are the implications of these? You can discuss this if you're in school, discuss this with the person next to you, or at home. Just write down, jot down any key implications of these images. So give yourselves 2 minutes. The life cycle of a plastic water bottle. What are the implications of all these issues here? Okay, so 2 minutes up there, guys. Hopefully you had a nice little discussion. I'll jot down a few key points there. I'm just going to go over a couple of them. So in particular, oils and using crude oil produces a lot of pollution. So there's a transport of the water bottles around the world by truck and cargo ship and those forms of transport. Then there's also being trashed and then being thrown away and left in a dump. So disposable waste landfill areas for 700 years. It often takes plastic bottles to disintegrate about 700 years. So we're going to be there a while. Okay, so why is that so important? Well, life cycle assessments assess the environmental impact of these products, such as these plastic bottles, but every single thing that is manufactured and produced around us, such as pens, pencils, rulers, but also clothing, sportswear, makeup, everything is assessed in these ways with LCAs or life cycle assessments. So there are four main ways: extracting, processing raw materials, manufacturing and packaging, use and operation during its lifetime, so how it's used, and then the key part, which is environmental part as well, is disposal at the end of its useful life. So it's useful, so once it's used, then disposing it. So can you just pause the video and get down those four key life cycle assessments there? So pause the video and get that down, please. Okay, so all the products obviously have four main parts, but there's a better way of summarizing that into key points. Can you try and summarize those four into four simple ways of the four main parts of those life cycle assessments? You've got four already, but can you simplify those down to something a bit into 2-3 words? Now I'll give you 2 minutes for that. 2 minutes, then we'll go through it and self-assess it. Okay, 2 minutes up there, guys. So there are four main parts that we summarize it nice and summarized here. So the first one being just the raw material. So of your product, the raw material. So for example, it's paper bags, going to be the wood from trees. If it's plastic, it's going to be crude oil. So raw materials. The second one will be the manufacture. So that's how it's designed, how it's made, how all those raw materials are put together. The usage. So number 3, the usage. And then the final one, disposal. Disposal, how we get rid of it and how we keep it away from ourselves and our normal lives. So give yourself a mark out of 4 for that. Excellent if you got 4. 3 and below, just add in the corrections there. Okay, so on the next slide, there will be a life cycle analysis, which closes loop, and a lot of chemistry analysts will use this to overview any single product that they have. So the next task I want you to do is to look at each one of these steps in the life cycle assessment and come up with 2 questions that need to be asked. Put yourself in the shoes of the manufacturer and the person who's overviewing this. What questions do you need to ask to make sure this product is safe and that it will be environmentally friendly or reduce the impact of the environment to as much as possible? So just 2 questions, and then we'll self-assess it and add in any corrections in about 8 minutes. So give yourself 8 minutes for this. 8 minutes, go. So your time is up there now, guys. Can we just add in a green pen or your own coloured pen or pencil? Just add in any corrections that you might or not already have, or tick off the ones you do have. So these are questions that, if you were in the shoes of the person orchestrating the life cycle assessment, these are questions you would have to add in and have to think about if you wanted to make this product, whatever the product is, as environmentally safe and sound as possible. So add in anything there you do not have. So pause the video, please. Okay, so in your exam, in GCSE chemistry exam, you could be asked to compare the life cycle assessment of a paper and a plastic bag. So how the 2 life cycle assessments are different and where they're similar as well. So on the screen is some key information here about the raw materials used, manufacture, use and disposal, and the differences between a paper bag and a plastic bag. What to do is to pause this recording here and do not write any of this down. I want you to read through it and read through it a couple more times just to try and remember in preparation for your 6-mark question. So just read over it 3 times, but do not write anything. Do not write. Okay, so the 6-mark question, this is a common 6-mark question. Compare the life cycle assessment of a paper bag and a plastic bag, and that's 6-mark question. And there are some hints below because I did ask you to not write down. So give yourself 7 minutes for this to answer these questions using the hints to help you. Then we'll go through it and self-assess it. So 7 minutes, pause the recording and make a start. So pens down, pencils down. Can you make sure you've finished your 6-mark question? And we'll go through it now and self-assess it. So if you're in school, can you please swap it over with someone else? If you're at home or elsewhere, can you please make sure you just self-assess this? Okay. If you ignore where it says scores 1 to 10, if you ignore that, if you put a point for each one, so for example, in extraction and processing, if you've described it's crude oil and it's finite and compare that to paper bag, that would be a point each as long as you compared it. Manufacturing and packaging, you process then cut. I'll give you a couple of examples. That'd be second, the third and fourth points, and then either use and reuse or then disposal would be the final 2 marks. If you also put transport as well and distribution at all stages, as long as you compared plastic bag and a paper bag at each time, at each process, one of each, that will get you the full 6 marks. So using this on here to help you, if you manage to compare each life cycle stage and on both plastic bag and the paper bag, that will be 6 out of 6. Okay, so give yourself a mark out of 6 there. And we'll move on to the final task. So just before I move on, so plastic bags do have, just to overview this, a lower environmental impact. Even though plastic bags aren't biodegradable, they actually take less energy to make the paper bags compared to obviously paper bags. In particular, because they use a lot of wood paper bags and it's needed to make it the manufacturing process of producing the paper bags and the transport of them, because they are heavier, actually has a greater environmental impact. So that's a key part there. Even though plastic bags are made from crude oil, the actual processing, extraction, and the transport and manufacturing of paper bags is greater. It does have a greater impact on the environment. So on screen now are just a few problems of these. So unlike in this task, in the real world, it is easy to quantify water, resources, amount of energy used, and how much waste is produced. But it is not easy to quantify the effects of pollutants. Why? So have a think, pause the video just for 30 seconds, have a think about that question. To put it simply, we can't be sure that the overall effect will total be, because we have to use value judgment. So the scores came up within the task, so that's your own opinion. There's no way to truly quantifiable that. And the problem with using value judgments are they are completely subjective. So it is all dependent on opinion, which is unlike objective, which means it is a fact, such as a diagram on the screen here. So LCA is a mix of numerical values and value judgments, but they are not a purely objective process. So they are subjective and open to interpretation. Okay, so on to the final task here, guys. On the plenary, I just want you to pause the recording for 3 minutes and have a go at this last question. What's the difference between carbon footprint, so that's something you may have done before GCSE or last year, or Key Stage 3, and then LCAs as we've done this recording lesson. So 3 minutes, go. Okay, so your time is finished there, guys. Can you please pick up a green pen or another coloured pen or pencil and self-assess this now? So to put it simply, a couple of points, just that. The carbon footprint is the total amount of CO2 and other greenhouse gases emitted over the full life cycle of a product, service, event. So the whole total from start from our raw materials all the way through to disposal. Whereas an LCA analyzes total environmental impact, i.e. not just greenhouse gases, but water use, non-gaseous pollutants, and such as plastic polluting, and the amount of waste. So carbon footprint is just the amount of greenhouse gases. LCA is just the total environmental impact.